Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you've all been keeping well. Well, welcome to our webinar this afternoon. And I will be doing online pedagogies for interaction and focusing specifically on cognitive skills. Hi, I'm Dorothy DeWitt, and I'm from the Faculty of Education from the Department of Curriculum and Instructional Technology. So it's said that we are meeting now in this emergency era of COVID-19 and not at a better time, because I think that online pedagogies are the way forward, that we should be learning about online pedagogies, not just now, not just for emergency purposes, but for many different other purposes. So what I'll be trying to do with you is to show you some of the tools and techniques and perspectives of online pedagogies, and let's hope we can make the best out of it right now in our emergency situation. Okay, so the first thing I'll be doing is getting to know what you know about domains of learning. So I'll be showing you after what we'll be doing. So if you could go to kahoot.it, okay, if you have the Kahoot app on your mobile phone, that's fantastic. Okay, if not, you could click on the link below, that bit.ly. If you're on Kahoot, get ready. I'll give the room number. Sorry, not room number. I've got confused between Kahoot and Socrative. So Kahoot, it is a pin number, okay, and I'll be giving it to you as soon as I get into my slides. So if you're already there and you've got through the link, you can start answering the questions. So I'm going to share screen right now, okay, and show you my slides. So I don't know whether, okay, let me see, I've got my phone, whether I need to request control from you. And share screen. Okay, so I hope you are seeing my slides, my PowerPoint slides for today. Okay, and I'll be going through, you've seen the synopsis, right? The domains of learning, online pedagogy for UM learner, perspectives of learning and pedagogies, maintaining online interactions, and the first principles of instruction and instructional design. And we go through some of the tools. So first things first, let's test what you know. Okay, so if you're on Kahoot, the pin number is 05460254. Specifically for this time of emergencies, Kahoot has gone into a self-paced learning version where you can assign to your students, like what I'm assigning to you now, and you can do it at your own pace. It's what they call a challenge. Okay, so I hope you can multitask, get into Kahoot, put in the game pin number, okay, and listen to me at the same time. Right, so this is a new feature in Kahoot. Previously, you could only do it as a student response system, but now during these times of emergency, Kahoot has gone onto assignment mode, and they have got several other features right now. It's as if I'm promoting Kahoot, but just for this emergency period, there are a few features that you can test out, even put your slides online and so on. But Be very careful. I mean, you don't want to get the paid version, right? You want the free version, I'm sure. Okay. Do test out what they have right now, where we can test it out free, but later on you may have to upgrade to get a paid version. But unfortunately, right now, Kahoot has a maximum of 50 players in each version, whether the free this is for free version, whether the teaching version or the assignment version. Okay, so this is what you can see. Create your own Kahoot. If you realize Kahoot makes it a little bit difficult for you to try and find the free version, it's under those premium plans. Okay, so how are you doing in Kahoot? I can see no one has completed, but I can let you carry on doing the questions. Oh no, I've got a few people. No one has got 100%. But I've got Daniel, Theo, Nas, and Shaz who have completed. Thank you. And while waiting for the others, I'm going to carry on with my PowerPoint slides. So if you have heard or if you have done the questions, you'll realize there's some similarities between domains of learning, and this is what we're going to do now, with the clusters in the MQF. In instructional design, it's very important to determine what you are going to teach. Are you going to teach verbal information, intellectual skills, cognitive strategies, motor skills, or attitudes? Which one is higher order? In the MQF clusters, now we've got clusters everywhere from COVID to MQF clusters. Okay, we have the knowledge domain, knowledge and understanding, which maps perfectly with verbal information. Cognitive skills is intellectual and cognitive strategies in instructional design. And we have certain other functional skills which may map to the motor skills that you need. And there's also ethics and professionalism, which will probably map with attitudes. Verbal information are facts, principles, things that you want your students to remember and recall immediately. What's the date of Malaysia's independence? Okay, what are the rules for this particular principle? Okay, when it comes to intellectual skills, we'll be looking at discrimination. What's the difference between this and that? Similarities. What's a concept that they're looking at? Concept of viruses, or what are viruses? Go into detail to define the concepts, get into rules and higher order rules. Intellectual skills. Whereas cognitive strategies are more higher level cognitive processes that we use for getting attention, learning, remembering, thinking. These are actually problem solvings and problem solving skills. And we may need to use more rehearsal, elaborate, organize, to be able to organize properly before focus on these skills. So I'm not going to go into all those skills. This is the MQF clusters. Okay, I'm also not going to go into detail. Okay, but I'd like to tell you that we are going to prioritize here towards the intellectual and cognitive strategies. In any instructional design, we need to do a needs assessment first. Okay, we need to identify what we're going to teach. What's our aim? Our goals. This is exactly what MQF tells us. Okay, we need to make sure we know what we're teaching, identify what clusters of learning it goes into, okay, and then start to design our instruction. Before we start designing the instruction, we should also know who is our learner. So that's the first step in our online pedagogy. What is the profile of the Malaysian student or our student? Okay, and another thing is online teaching, just recording. I got this excerpt from the Asia Sentinel. Okay, something which talks about Malaysian education system. And look here, they say education pundits are quickly jumping onto the online teaching model that has sprung up during the COVID-19 crisis. It's not new, online teaching, but very few have been very successful. You see here, very few Malaysian academics are enthusiastic. I guess I've got only the enthusiastic ones here online. The ones who are not enthusiastic, I guess, are not here. So one lecturer says that although students are tech savvy, multitasking, and prefer lecture recordings, they prefer the peer environment so that they can socialize and network. Online teaching can't replace that. What do you think of that? I agree with the point that he made, which is students, our children, our students, our young people, in fact, the older people too, prefer interaction, prefer looking at their peers and learning. They want to socialize and network. And online learning can't replace that? I disagree. Okay, let's look at our learner. Most of our undergraduate students, they come in from the Malaysian education system. Okay, if you look at what has been done in our by the Ministry of Education in the undergraduate, in secondary schools, primary schools, there have been so many projects going on. They had one Bestari Net, recently VLE Frog, after that Google Classroom. So our undergraduates should come in from school with a lot of experience in technology. Agree? I did this chapter, okay, in book on the technology applications being used by students in a Bachelor of Counselling program. So we followed them from 2013, not followed the same group, but every year the same group before they enter the program. These are first year students in their first semester. We took a survey of the tools that they are familiar with. Okay, so YouTube, you say by 2018 everybody uses, familiar and have used, okay, YouTube. Not so for the other apps though, or the other technologies. So YouTube, students definitely view videos on YouTube before they enter to the university. Okay, however, because of the data heavy YouTube, our video lectures going to be their priority. Of course, if it's a nice movie, they will watch it, but what lectures are nice? Secondly, social media. Let's look at social media. Facebook, you see, it's through previous years, it has been very, very popular, but not so recently. In 2018, only 90% of students use Facebook, not 100%. However, we see the rise in Instagram, okay, in recent years, and of course, WhatsApp. WhatsApp, almost used by everybody in 2018, but not so in 2016. See the difference. Discussion tools. Okay, we looked at Skype. Skype was not very popular in 2018, somewhat used by students earlier on, and WhatsApp for discussion. I think if you ask today, probably more students have used Zoom because of this crisis. Okay. File sharing. Dropbox is somewhat used, okay, but not so many. And the collaborative tools like Screener, which is a screen capture tool, used somewhat, okay. But Google Docs, they are quite familiar, and things like blogging for using Blogspot, WordPress, students are somewhat familiar. Now, what does this show? Okay, there is the potential of using video sharing, I'm sure. Text, messaging, WhatsApp, definitely. Okay, students can probably even use Telegram, although Telegram didn't come out in 2018. I mean, it was not very popular. There were some, but not many. Okay, and so there is also the potential, because students can do screencasting. PowerPoint, they probably are already doing it, and Google Docs and blogging. These are the potential technologies that we can ask our students to use. However, there are several underlying issues, equity issues. Now, in the particular group in all those groups that I looked at through the years, all of them had a laptop, because they come to university, they normally they buy a new laptop. Internet access, Wi-Fi in the campus. Okay, but when they go back, like now in this particular time of emergency, some students went back without their laptops, I heard. Okay, some in their kampongs or in other places may have very, very limited internet access. So some also buy their own data. In the university, they don't have so much issues, but when they have limited data, they have to prioritize whether to spend their data or waste their data on lectures or on their favorite program. They will have to prioritize. And we also have special needs to take care of. Who are your students? Do you know all your students? Okay, if you're looking at the undergraduate programs, I'm assuming will be large numbers. Okay, but do we know whether they have special needs? What are their needs? And right now, in this time of emergency, actually the wellness of the student, many of them have anxiety issues, OCD from fear of the virus, okay, and maybe even society and family issues. Sometimes when you talk to this group of youngsters, many of them are not affected, but there may be one or two who have lost family members because of this disease, or are facing even mental health issues being coped up in their homes, or maybe even in campus. We do not know. So you have to be extra careful, because we assume that everything is all right, but it may not be all right. Assessment issues. Now we're going to grade our students, and grading system is not so much of the memorizing and producing in the exam, everything that you have learned. So we need to change the assessment issue. A new normal needs to be set. What is assessment now? So we'll have to go on to more evidence-based assessment based on artifacts that the students produce, portfolios perhaps of their work. That means not just based on one time, but of many incidences of their work, to give evidence that they have mastered what you require them to master. And maybe even towards micro-credentials, being able to use, reuse, retake tests, relook at assignments. So looks like a lot of things will have to change, maybe after this COVID MCO is over. So we want to reduce stress, not only student stress, lecturer stress as well. Okay, so make assessment with the students and not assessment to the students. That means don't make it unreasonable for the students. We're not giving assessment to trap them or to check, oh, I got you here, you don't know this. Okay, but we're using assessment together with the students to help the students learn. In other words, formative assessment. Okay, making it more open, being able to take, retake, okay, look again at their mistakes and continuously improving themselves. Not a final, no, this is what you get, this is your grade, and that's also. It needs to change. But talking of change, this is actually what we have been looking at and attempting to do with our Malaysian education system, having more formative, continuous assessment. Unfortunately, now in the time of emergency, we are doing it. In order, so now come to the next section. We've got the learner done. So let's assume you know your learner. Now let's look at learning. The perspective of learning, how you perceive learning occurs, will actually influence your way of teaching, both online and offline. Okay, learning, if you are in the associationist perspective, you will say learning is gradually building patterns, making associations between skills and different components of learning. You need feedback. You tell the students what is right, what is wrong, and that helps in that connection. I don't call this a behaviorist perspective because there is another field, another theory, which is connectionism, which is not behaviorist in nature, a recent theory. So that's why we call it associationist. But it makes use a lot of the behaviorist concepts. There is behavioral objectives, there are task analysis, how you need to arrange your tasks in sequence. Okay, this is not my theory alone, but it comes from this book, which you can reference online, Digital Pedagogies actually. Instructional system design methods in the traditional form, okay, looks at this process. That means you may use Garnet's 9 events for instructional strategy. You will analyze for hierarchy of content. You teach the simple ones before you reach the higher level ones. Okay, you teach the definitions first before the concepts, because before making use of rules and principles. And you need to sequence the units so that you can achieve the objectives. And there's an instructional approach which may be using Garnet, which you can incorporate in for each unit. It can be personalized, it can be individualized to each student. There might be multiple pathways to successful performance. People like me, at my age, grew up during the time of e-learning, which was in this method. There was so-called program instruction, a behavior modification approach. This was the traditional e-learning approach that was used. So if I look at instructional design, I took this from Dick and Carey, okay, who says this is an instructional design. The goal statement, what is your goal for the course, will need to be divided into several steps, several different goals. Okay, each goal may have several sub-steps, okay, and can be sequenced. So the steps are here: how to write your goal, how to do your goal analysis. So this is something that we do in instructional design, and this I can ask my students to present their goal statements, their goal analysis in class or even online. This was done for both purposes, online as well as face-to-face, for blended and online mode. Each goal step, each goal. So maybe this might be week 1. Okay, what are the supporting materials I need? What are the subordinate skills? So it's a very analytical process for you to analyze what is required. And this is a traditional instructional design, systems approach to instructional design. So in short, you can design your units to have an entry behavior test. As they come in, they do a test, something like what you did on Kahoot, if you have done the test. And from there, they go on to look at the content, the resources that you have, you present it, and after that do an activity, and then do another test or quiz to determine whether they have achieved the proficiency to go on to the next unit, and so on. So completion of all the units with test scores which are acceptable to you will ensure that, okay, we say you have passed it. This is the old model of instructional design for online learning, still applicable, still being done right now. Okay, there are many instructional, many courses, which have this instructional design approach and associationist perspective. The second approach I'm going to show you Okay, and after that, it'll be up to you to decide. There are 3 approaches. Is the cognitive approach. So cognitive approach says use learning, perception, thinking, language and reasoning, okay, as a result of attention, memory, and concept formation. So learning is to model the processes of interpreting, interaction between new experience, the structure, building a framework, and it is a constructivist approach where you use hypotheses to test meaningful learning, okay, interactions, emphasis, and technology enhancement. Okay, guys, I want to ask you, what do you learn from that? From this slide pump that I showed you? I hope I didn't confuse you, and I hope I did, because that is the cognitivist approach. You cannot give everything to the students at one go. Students will probably, maybe lecturers are different because you're all very determined and want to learn, okay? But seeing everything at once is going to be a cognitive overload, too much, okay? But if I break up, now, that was my first sentence, getting your attention, committing it to memory, getting concepts formed. I need to tell you step by step. Learning is interpreting and then constructing meaning. You are providing new experiences so that there is some kind of interaction between the new experience so that you can structure it for your understanding. Now, what you perceive is important, because I could be giving the student or giving you many things, but if I don't focus my attention, you'll be perceiving all sorts of things. I need to guide you in your thinking processes, okay? And using the language, I'm assuming here everybody talks English, so I'm talking in English, okay, so that I can cater to the international as well as Malaysian audience, okay? And you'll be able to reason. So you see, I'm making it, I hope, more systematic and so that you're able to group the concepts and form your own conception of what learning is. Learning depends on all this. How I catch your attention, how you commit it to memory, it depends on how I present it and how I allow you to form concepts. So it's a process in your mind. That's why it's a cognitive perspective. So in this perspective, learning is constructivist. So learners test hypotheses that they build. But in order to make it meaningful, okay, so that they can use their own existing experience and relate the new experiences that you want to teach over here to make it learning, for them to learn, to make these meaningful processes. So learning concepts is as a tool. Learning the concept is the tool, okay? So how you use it for a specific purpose and you interact to form cognitive functions. Okay, so that means you need to focus on tasks. What are the activities that you're going to give? What are you going to allow them to reflect upon? After you complete the task, you need to reflect. Hypotheses that you built, whether formally or informally, did you achieve? Were they achieved after testing it? Or do you have to reformulate your objectives? This part of reflection. How did you learn? What did you learn? Okay, the activities that you did should help you to learn, and technology should also allow for the interaction. We'll look a little bit later what kind of technology tools that perhaps we can use for this. But I'd like you to understand that this is actually the basis of multimedia learning design. When you present information, you don't present everything at once. So that first slide on cognitive perspective, that's a cognitivist approach. You arrange your information in a way that is meaningful, okay, that comes out slowly, that can show a process and can help the learner to relate. Okay, so cognitive perspective focuses on activities. So you'll be using activities for students to learn, to build their hypothesis, then also relate it to their own experiences. Okay, and that's how they build their understanding as they see, oh, okay, I've done it this way, I need to improve, okay, and what I need to redo. So certificate of completion means, or you can get it after you have completed tasks and after you have shown processes, okay, the processes that you went through. So you see, this is a very a different format instead of the right and wrong, okay, but it is a process, more of a process-based certification. The third perspective. This is the final perspective. Okay, so it says that learners, now this is where we said earlier that learners want to interact with their peers. Okay, fantastic. So let them interact. Let them be in a social cultural group, like in this picture here. Let them be in a community of practitioners. Okay, so in order to do that, learning has to be personally meaningful. If not, I won't participate. Look at this lady here. Is she participating in the group processes? What do you think? Okay, how about this lady and this lady? So looking at the people in this group, you can actually see from their body whether they are actively participating or not. And in this situated learning perspective, having a positive self-esteem, a sense of identity, a sense of belonging to the group will actually encourage the learning processes to go on. So it's also very, very dependent on the context. Where is the learning? Where are you doing it? In what situation? Is it at the workplace or in the classroom just for simulation? And sometimes it also occurs in informal settings, not necessarily in the classroom. It could be outside doing work for someone, and very, very often it is a problem-based learning, solving a problem together. So, activity, having the right activity, having the motivation becomes very important, because if you're not motivated, you are not going to learn, you're not going to participate much. Okay, and learning is shaped by social forces. So if you feel the group, you want to work with the group, for the benefit of the group, then you would be more involved in the learning. So social forces. If you are discriminated by the group, that could be also another issue in learning. Okay, so far we've gone all the theoretical aspects of learning, and this is important, okay, because we're going to go through into the technology tools after this, when you see how this perspective of learning relates to the technology tools. So beginners at the periphery who don't want to communicate much, okay, they are normally new to the group. Okay, they have not enough experience perhaps as the experienced members. Okay, and so we call that learning from the periphery. Okay, so there is legitimate peripheral learning going on, because as they see others participate and learn, they also learn. Okay, the aim is for them to be eventually experts. So in a situated learning perspective, the community of practice, okay, the experts in the middle, okay, are the practitioners. Okay, that's a stable group. But a learning group, okay, would mean people would need to be working with the experienced members to have the need to participate as a full member, okay, and needs to be motivated, okay, in order to discover new knowledge. At the individual level, each learner needs to have a personal relationship with the group members, okay. And once you find that the group members are open and receiving, you'll be able to have better shared experiences and a better social learning. So it depends on solving problems. So you could have a full active participation, or you could have many lurkers. Who are the lurkers? In many groups you'll find, especially now, university, I think in the undergraduate, if you don't tell them that there is marks for working together, many of them would rather just be lurkers and not contributors. So when do you give a certificate of completion? So you can put in active participation as a score, an area that needs to be scored, and solving the problem as another area that can be used to score. Okay, now comes the online pedagogy. So looking at those three perspectives that you have seen, the associationist, cognitive and social perspectives, the situational perspective, what does that mean? After this, I'm going to ask you what online pedagogy you identify yourself with. Okay. Analysis of content. Remember, that was what we started out with. So this means that you need to chunk your contents into small segments of content, small texts. Okay. When you organize an activity, it should be sequenced from the easy to more difficult, or even problems from easy problems to more difficult problems. Okay, and I find that sequencing in order in Spectrum is fantastic, because I can in Spectrum organize, it's more or less organized according to topic, but I can put it according to week 1, week 2, and I can put all the activities and content that I'm going to do in sequence. First, I'm going to show this slide. Second, this link. Third, I've got a little bit of interaction for them to do on this web page. Then another URL to look at, another content, and more URLs. And after that, I could give even activities and so on. Or I could use a content curation tool like Blandspace. Blandspace is from Test Lessons. It's a free online platform which you could organize. And the fantastic thing about Blandspace is that you can drag and drop. It's quite easy, intuitive to use. Put in URL and links, okay, and add in your quiz developed in Blandspace itself. So when you organize it, you play it step 1, step 2, step 3, and you can remember to put in interaction. So it's a method of organizing your lessons. Excuse me. Content. Now, how many of you are still with me, or have you left me already? If you're highly motivated, you'll be listening to me. However, are our undergraduates highly motivated? Research shows content, video content, more than 5 minutes, they're going to get lost. So this means that video content should be limited to 5 minutes. Then how? That doesn't mean that all of your lectures need to be 5-minute videos. That's one way. Another way, especially if you have long videos, 1 hour and so on. So when ADAC posts this 1 hour video online, you'll find that not many people look at it. But you can always fast forward to what you're interested in and view it. The second thing is add interaction. Now in Spectrum, there's this tool H5P, okay, or in Edpuzzle, that's another one. Okay, so let's talk about Edpuzzle first. Edpuzzle enables you to add interaction, stops, pauses. So like this particular video here, it comes in with an Edpuzzle pause, which you can put a note in. And then it forces the learner to actually stop and interact with you. Agree, don't agree, yes, okay, or even answer a quiz. Interactive videos. On Spectrum, you have H5P. You see, interactive content. I think this was bought by bought or we've got somehow MOU to include this in Spectrum, and I think the interactive video is fantastic. It's just exactly like Edpuzzle, so you can actually put interaction, pauses, and so do try it out if you haven't. Okay, so you can create your own interactive video on Spectrum itself. Okay, H5P, similar to adding the activity, but you must have the video on hand. Okay, next is the next item that you have to probably realize is that you need to interact to ensure presence and engagement of students. During video lectures, slide presentations, video viewing, or that, like now, I haven't interacted with you for a long time. Okay, I'm going to have an interaction, but it's been too long. You need to have interaction with me. Okay, so during lessons, formative assessment, quiz, Padlet, mind mapping activities, interactions, you see, if you look at blank space, you can put in more interactions to help the learner focus. Presence that I mean are actually cognitive presence, where you have to get them thinking. You can be quiet, not asking questions, and yet thinking. Or you can be actively asking questions and not thinking. Either way, okay? But cognitive presence means you are here understanding and thinking along the way. Social interaction and teaching presence, right now it's all directed by me, the teacher. So I'm a very obvious presence here. I'm sorry. But getting the attitude of the student, okay, in is a very important aspect in online distance learning. If you don't have the right attitude, you don't want to learn, we're going to be in trouble. Okay. However, in online distance learning, you should actually reduce the teaching presence and reduce the noise. The noise means the extra learning or out of learning activities and discussions which may occur in online discussions. The next aspect of online pedagogies is that your problem, tasks, activities that you set for them should be meaningful and relate to their prior knowledge, relevant, so that they can use it at work in future, and real, authentic activities, cases, unique problems, relevant at the moment that they need it. For example, just give you an example that I did with my counseling students. They had to do a report on a cyber activity or cybercrime or cyber issue. So they have to do a wiki page. You can do it web page where they put in definitions, explanations on what this crime is, stories that can engage the reader, okay, and what is it, and actually find out the status from either surveys that they do on Facebook or whichever media, from their friends perhaps, and how to overcome this issue. And they would have to present it. Okay, one of the crimes that they did have a look at was catfishing. Do you know what's catfishing? Now there's also spear phishing. In this day and age of COVID-19, there are more cyber crimes and cyber issues getting on. Okay, so go and find out if you don't know what is catfishing. And they also get from the data that we collect in class, like how many students can use software like Google Documents. So we find out for, among themselves, okay, they get this data and they have to analyze and present in class to see how many of them are using Google Documents, not doodling. Also get them to, instead of just reading articles, okay, get them to do posters, present the posters, or in this particular case, share the posters, which I asked, this is a master's class, actually not undergraduate for this particular issue. They had to read issues on educational technology, create posters after that, and share posters in their WhatsApp group. So this make it more relevant, their reading assignment. We have to put it on poster. Okay, they also, so this one was an undergraduate class, had to create products and present their, actually in the end, videos. But before the videos could be produced, they actually have their storyboards, which had to be shared and presented to their friends, okay, to determine whether it was feasible and to ensure that the storyboards were relevant. So online pedagogies will need different forms of assessment, formative, summative. You may need more artifacts, more production-based, okay. Canva is a very nice and easy tool. That's the posters that I showed you. And Instagrammable, after that you can share on Instagram, and it's also very easy to use. Lucidchart is another one. This is created by some of the lecturers, actually, how to teach dengue symptoms and so on, what they wanted to teach, using the many different charts that you can share and collaborate. Lucidchart. And of course, Padlet. Okay, so this is an example of a discussion that we can have in Padlet. I haven't finished yet, okay, but I'm going to get your activities. Get an activity for you. Okay, tell me what perspective is important for online pedagogy. And I haven't had a look at the chat, I realize. Okay, so there are two things here. Are you able to, I do not know whether you can click on my link or whether you need to put out this link at Padlet Dorothy Online Pedagogy. Tell me either in Padlet or in the chat, what is your online pedagogy? What do you feel your online pedagogy is? So I do not know whether you are seeing my PowerPoint slide or okay. I can't see your questions on chat because I'm trying to look on chat, but maybe that is okay. Maybe I have to click here. Okay, I see some of I see one question here. Any tips to remotely improve learners' intrinsic and extrinsic motivation? Yeah, games. Okay, playing with them, interacting with them. So Kahoot, I think, is one of the very interesting games. Quite a number now with the remote system. I think some lecturers I've shared with some lecturers, and they have asked me for Kahoot. So now Kahoot can be done remotely. So if you have done the Kahoot quiz, okay, because it's a challenge, so many students are motivated, okay, when they are challenging their friends and their peers. But of course, yes, you also get some who do not, who are not motivated. So how do you get them to come in? For me, I always use marks. That means I will tell them right at the beginning of semester, okay, I'm going to give how many percent, normally 5 to 10% on your interaction on discussion forums, as well as any online activities. So if I particularly want them to participate, I'll tell them before the activity, this activity will contribute a large amount. I mean, maybe 2% of that 5 to 10%. Okay, there's another question I see here. For prioritize, you say we need to create the assessment first. Why don't we focus on objective first and then go to assessment? Actually, I didn't say create assessment first, but I said get the goal analysis done. So during the goal analysis, that's the part where you're actually designing your objectives. There are many different instructional design models out there. So most models focus on the goal, okay? And when, like in Dick and Carey, after you've got the goals, you can design the objectives, and from the objectives, we are supposed to design the assessment first after the objectives. Knowing what you want to evaluate, then we design the activities for the evaluation of the objectives. Okay, I hope you got that. There's another question by Aziz. In our current situation, can lecturers assume that students are independent learners and hope for the best? If not, how to make students more dependent and able to learn themselves? That's a bit difficult, because our students, undergraduate students, have been very dependent, I believe. Okay, but maybe this is emergency situation. But then remember, we have to be quite careful with our students right now, because many of them may also be having problems. Problems meaning they may have some mental health issues which we do not know. They may have family members who are involved in this crisis. So it's quite difficult to make them, you cannot change them now, immediately. This independence is a gradual process, and it will have to be probably right from the beginning of semester. When you meet them, you have to tell them your expectations. This is one of the things that I would actually be showing expectations. I expect you to be independent. I am not going to help you to do this. So if right from the beginning they are trained to be independent in your class, maybe that may help. However, perhaps you're the only lecturer who is forcing them to be independent and not the other lecturers. So that is also another issue. Okay, whether they can be totally independent. But I think this is something we have to go forward to, and train them to be more independent. Now, can I try and show you my Padlet? That means I want to share. So I want to share my Padlet link. Don't know whether we can do that or not. Okay, when I share, all right. Okay, so I have here, so some of you are associative, some of you are going to give live streaming. This is also very, very much associative, LIM, okay, and a hybrid approach. Well, fantastic. So I'm wondering what a hybrid approach is. Wiki, okay, Wiki, all right, it's very good actually it's a production based. Forums and blog actually in between. It could be hybrid. You could be actually creating them to do a lot of reflection on forums and blogs. activities and pushing content, assessment, assessment and reflection. Fantastic, Karim. And Theo, wow, from USM. Okay, online lectures for 90 minutes. You think your students can survive 90 minutes? Okay, but you've got questions in between and you need to answer. I'm very glad that all of you here are surviving. It's already went 1 hour. You have survived 1 hour with me. Fantastic. Great. Okay, to prepare and discuss about them. Add-on cases. I think case-based learning is fantastic right now. Okay, and in the problem, it should be very relevant. Online quizzes, fantastic. That's associative. Wiki for small group. Yeah, that's right. Wikis can also be used. That means you don't have you have one wiki and many subgroups on the wiki. For each link can be a group of students working together on an assignment. Okay. Oh, Azizi, I have to look at what exactly. There's lots of wonderful things there that you have. Okay. Okay, great, fantastic, everyone. Okay, and I saw motivation here, instant gratification in the online environment. Perhaps it had to be using the online tools, answering questions. Yeah, Karim, we are highly motivated. You are, I'm sure. Okay, that's why we are here, because we are definitely highly motivated, and that's why we survive as lecturers in USM, I guess. Okay, let's hope we can get our students highly motivated too. Okay, guys, I'm going to show you the next section, which I hope will help you maybe to motivate your students. So I'm going to go and share back my, okay, I have to share my slides now. So my PowerPoint slides. Okay, thank you so much for the feedback that you have given me, and hopefully that's the way that you can interact with your students. I didn't realize that it'll take so long to come to this stage, 1 hour, but actually you should try to interact with the students much more. One online learning model states that when we have an online learning environment, we should interact with our students. The first thing we should do, so it's the 5-stage model by Gilly, and it's been on a long time, Gilly Salmon. Ensure access and motivation. The first thing we do is we motivate them, have fun with them. In my classes, I do a lot of blended learning, and from time to time we have our e-learning week, of course, so we go totally online. Okay, we do a lot of blended learning. The first thing I always get them to do is to share online through Padlet or even through our discussion forum about themselves, something unique, something fun that they can share with everybody, and that's to ensure that we are forming the group, okay, and also to motivate them right from the beginning of the class, early in the semester. Socializing. So you see, in this online learning model, the first 2 steps are motivation and socialization. When you socialize, send and receive messages to build up the group, to also get them familiar with using the technologies, whether it's Spectrum, Padlet, other online technologies. So this one way, and we should spend time on it, and the amount of interaction should actually, from maybe slow because they're not very good in technologies, you slowly build up and enable the sharing of the information. So the next stage, share. They're not doing much cognitive activities yet, but sharing, collecting information, and the lecturer, the tutor, the teacher will be facilitating this process, but allow them to share. After the sharing process, then we encourage getting new ideas, new perspectives from the lecturers, students, getting them to think more before we reach that final stage of independence where they are self-regulated learners, self-motivated, they can work on their own. This is what we are aiming for. And in my classes, I mean, I work towards this. I always start with the online socialization. Week 1 is always playing with the technology, okay, and getting to know them. I cannot get to know everybody, and sometimes I forget their names, but at least that's the first step. They think that you know them, okay, and then letting them share before we go to the next level. Okay, sometimes you can get to the highest level where they are very independent. Sometimes you may not be able to. So actually working on the attitude, the social presence, remember the presences before we get to the cognitive presence. This is one example online where a team of test developers worked in a wiki environment where online socialization was used for getting them working with them. So this is an example of how they set up the activities and started to do this, to do online work with them in a wiki environment. So socialization important, guidance is needed to allow them to share information. You find that students may actually be difficult for them to share information before you can allow them to construct their own knowledge. And it may be vicarious learning. They learn from other people as other people share. So it's attitude, socialization, teaching first, then only you may be building up your cognitive presence. Forgot to put cognitive in there. So we've got one, Vinotini, my PhD student. She's already completed waiting for Senate. Okay. She did a few videos, and I'm sharing a lot of these videos in this slide. So this is how she shared what we did in some of the classes with this group of undergraduate students. Okay, so you can look at it at your leisure, and discussion forums are actually very, very good methods for getting students to think divergent views about the nature of curriculum. Putting a question that enables them to think, and after that, look at their responses, and that's the teacher's presence coming in. You'd have to actually read and find out what they say and suggest what else they can look at. Okay, what else they should consider. Sharing information, the first stage, before you go on to the later stage. So you, as the moderator in the online learning, besides social presence, you encourage them to share, elaborate their arguments, compare with another person's work, another person's reply, okay, apply and transfer. What would you do in the future at your work? Okay, so these are the things that you should encourage for cognitive presence. That's the thinking element, the intellectual and cognitive skills, and of course attitude. So personal skills like encouraging, TPAC, and so on. So guys, the next part is actually first the instructional design. I've actually finished the main part of the pedagogy, so you've seen how social presence, teaching presence, cognitive, and attitude are important, and you need to develop not only personal skills as lecturers to encourage them, encouraging, very open, motivating for the students. See, we have students are our clients, so we have to look at the students and get them to interact with us online. That requires TPAC, technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge. You're the experts in the content, okay? Pedagogies, unless you've been teaching for long, you may not have that skills, but I hope like the first principles of instruction could help you. So guys, if I'll probably will be sharing the slides. I'll go through very fast. Activation is the first phase of telling the students, showing them, asking them, integrating them. I've actually got a Padlet for you to tell me what you think of each of these principles. If you have time, do go on to that link, FPI, First Principles of Instruction, okay, which I thought we'd have time to do it then. Okay, most important in this instructional design is getting the problem task. Okay, a big project maybe at the end, but in doing a project, so this is an example of a project, sorry guys, the project that I did with my students where they had to produce 2 videos. Actually they had to solve a social issue, and this time we did this with a bit of collaboration with with a group of other lecturers in psychology and counseling, okay, where they have to develop videos to be put online, sorry, quizzes and an infographic. But they had to show me the process of designing. In the process, they had several small little problems like designing storyboards, infographics, budgets, and reviewing other videos in order. So these were little problems they had to do, they had to solve in order to finally do this final assignment, final big assignment. Okay, so that is what the first principles of instruction is about: having authentic, real problem solved tasks and progressing from simple, easy to do to harder and harder problems. But it doesn't mean that I've not analyzed my goals and objectives. The goals and objectives are already analyzed before you design the problems. You need to know, yes, what are your objectives first. And when you design for activation. Tell them what is going to be done. Get their attention. If you have participated right from the beginning of the webinar, I tried to get your attention by getting you to play Kahoot on your own. Unfortunately, it's not the a student response system. Recall when you played it, you had to recall your prior knowledge. Okay, demonstrated. You heard my lectures. Okay, so gain attention. Identify objectives. Demonstrated, presented the lecture notes and gave you certain hints on pedagogies and tools that you can use. Application, your turn actually. Tell me, and then I provide feedback. Okay, and enhance, I'll only be able to see this when you start showing me what you have done in your teaching and learning. Okay, so prioritize. So we have completed the learning domains, and I've got this to share with you some work which we did, my student and I, my PhD student Vinotini. We divided, according to Merrill's first principles, tools that you can use for activation, demonstration, application, integration. Okay, and we did this for the different domains of learning, but I'm prioritizing intellectual skills. Okay, so have a look at what are the tools that Coggle. Okay, demonstration. Okay, this was done. Merrill's one of those who use blogging, by the way. Okay, this was done with opinions from experts from different universities. Not only UKM, experts in educational technology and different subject matters, okay, on what are the technology tools which should be used in different areas. So intellectual skills, when you let your students apply, okay, in using forum, I think Spectrum has a lot of tools that we can actually use for. Facebook, we should actually be looking at interactions on Facebook rather than just Facebook Live. Okay, as one of my colleagues does a lot of Facebooking. Okay, and intellectual skills. Okay, for integration, allow them to classify rules. I love Wiki because I think it's one way where students are allowed to present for everybody, and when they present for everybody within a safe environment. Okay, all right. Have a look at Canva and so on, and also cognitive strategies. Okay. According to experts, Kahoot, Socrative, blogs, poll everywhere. Okay, very, very useful. Demonstration, okay, use in discussion forum. I was thinking of Facebook as a discussion forum, but none of the experts said Facebook. Maybe because they had a different opinion of Facebook. But of course, screencasting tools. You all know about the recording feature in PowerPoint? Application, doing maths. Okay, I'm very fast right now because I want to go through the end. Okay, right to the end so that I can answer some of your questions. So problem solving, allowing them to do problem solving. Okay, so these are some of the tools that I have been using, and so. But I also want to remind you that you need to maintain your boundaries. Otherwise, you'll be hearing from students 24/7. Do you want that? Okay, social media for education, for teaching and learning may be different from your own personal social media, because you may want to connect with your family members, but you don't want your students to know about your family. Okay, and very important is the expectations. What is important? Participation or not? Okay, and are you going to have a limited time for them? Maybe office hours where they can reach you, or you may be only looking at their online posts 2 or 3 times a week at a certain time. Copyright issues need to be told right at the beginning, including plagiarism. So the use of Turnitin assignments, that's one way to address plagiarism in the assignments. And security issues, secure platforms like Microsoft's, like our Spectrum, I suppose, is secure. And I've put lots of other things here, resources which I hope you can look at, okay, and improve what you have. Okay, so Sway is also one fun looking, and we have access to Microsoft Sway, so you can, I don't know whether can you see the Sway that I'm showing you? Play in order to play my Sway. Okay, so I've put here videos. If you can incorporate videos, how to record PowerPoint, done by many of these things. Videos have been done by Vinotini as part of her PhD research, which she has shared with ADEC, and you're all welcome to have a look at. So these are a set of videos and resources that we have put online. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation. Sorry for the long time now. Question and answer. Okay, let me see. How much time do we need to invest to prepare one lesson, which is equivalent 3-hour face-to-face lesson? Oh, okay, that's a good question. I normally take a few hours. 3 hours, you'll probably need 12 hours. Again, it depends. If you have, so if you are just transferring, if you want to just transfer your PowerPoint directly to PowerPoint that you would normally present in your class, and let's say put your voice over and then just give it to the students, that will be faster. That would be very much faster. So it's just a voice over talking, and recording your PowerPoint. Otherwise, you actually need to spend more time, because you probably need to think of what are the activities you are going to do, what are the questions, additional questions. Yes, definitely 5 to 6, 7, 8, 10 hours. If you want to do something Powtoon, yes, definitely there's going to be a lot of time invested. So that's why ours may not be a full-time e-learning. Instead, ours may be just emergency learning. So yes, there's a lot of time for design to be involved in if we're really going to do e-learning. What do you think, from Anne? What do you personally think instructors should do to those students who don't have access to internet, laptop, computer at home? Yes, in the old days, we use text. We can, if they totally have no internet, we would probably have to get them something, where once a week they have to go somewhere with internet. In the rural areas, there used to be that Pusat community. I don't know whether it's still operating right now, whether they still have internet access. So probably they'll need to go somewhere where they can access, and maybe it is more downloading on mobile phones. Our mobile phones are practically like a computer, although it's a bit limited. So we need to probably think of more text messaging form. Our Spectrum is quite light actually if we don't put videos in, so we may have to avoid the videos, but do more on text messaging and discussion forums. When using forum for discussion, I find that students from Anonymous that often are waiting for my feedback rather than interaction. That's true. So what I do is I will give marks so we tell them earlier on. So you need to respond to each other. If I see you responding, that means I know you're a very active participant responding to your friends' discussion, and I know that if you show me that you know your stuff, that's where I'll give you more or higher marks. Okay, so perhaps that will help them. Okay, and I've also done forums where I more or less ask the students to interact and answer each other's questions. No, okay, I only paid for, I'm not paying for subscription of many of the learning platforms, including Kahoot. Kahoot, the ones that I use now, Kahoot has very smartly hidden, where you can try. So you have to look under all the paid subscriptions. You have to say, no thanks, I don't want that. So I have been using Kahoot for a long time. Padlet also all unpaid version. But that's a security concern, actually, the unpaid version. Okay. But if you're in control, I guess it's okay. Okay, guys, I think I have answered most of the questions. Are there any that I have missed that you'd like me to answer? No? Thank you for joining me this afternoon. Sorry that I took too much time. Is there any particular tool maybe that you would like me to focus on or show? And within 5-10 seconds, tell me. If not, we'll probably ended this session. Okay. Thanks for being a very beautiful audience, interacting with me. Okay, although I don't see you, but at least I saw some interactions from you, and that's fantastic. And I'd like to thank also ADEC for organizing this. I think it's a good effort on their part. Okay, I'd like to ask Umu, are there any questions that I've missed, Umu? If not, ADEC wants you to scan the QR code and submit your feedback. Thank you, everyone. And if there's anything that you'd like help on, feel free to contact me through ADEC or directly. I'm Dorothy. So dorothy@um.edu.my. Okay, if I can help you, I'll try and help you. Okay, thanks for being a fantastic audience, and see you online soon, and good luck with your online teaching. All the best. Bye.